Hello, fellow explorers, and welcome back. My name is Cody of Earth, and today we will be taking our first steps in a brand new Minecraft universe. We'll be making our first set of tools, finding some food and shelter so that we can survive our first night, and making ourselves a space that we can call home. So with that, welcome to the Explorer's Guide. Alright, we are here. We've done it. And this is our beautiful world spawn. The place where every Minecraft explorer will begin their new adventure. I'm actually going to leave all of this alone. I don't want to mess with any of it. After all, this is our initial spawn point, and I'd kind of like to keep it in mint condition. So for now, I'm going to head north until we find a nice forest nearby where we can begin gathering some of our very first resources. While we head that direction, let's go over a few things you'll probably notice on the screen when you start a new world. At the bottom of our screen, we have a little heads up display, also known as a HUD, that augments over our view of the world. This is always here to make sure that we have access to critical information about how we're doing as we play the game. Below, we can see that we have a health bar with 10 hearts of health, a hunger bar with these 10 drumsticks to show us whether or not we need to eat. We have an XP bar below that shows us how many experience points we have. And then we have this hotbar down here to show us the bottom row of our inventory, which is currently empty. We'll also always have a visual of our main hand, that or whatever item we're holding in our main hand. And at the center of the screen, there's this little crosshair that will show us what we're currently focused on. Obviously, the most important of these things that we want to be mindful of, especially in a place like this where there's quite a bit of steep terrain, is our health bar. Because yes, we can take damage in this game, and if we're not careful, we could die prematurely if we fell off of a cliff. And that would be a tragic way to start the series, so I'm going to do my best to watch my step as we make our way north. Perfect! This is exactly what I was looking for. A nice forest with lots of trees, which brings us to our first task. The very first thing that you'll want to do when starting a new world is gather some wood. And because we have absolutely nothing to our name, the only way we can go about doing this is by punching a tree with our bare hands. By hand, it will take us about 3 seconds to break, and when it does, pay close attention, we've unlocked our first set of crafting recipes. And an oak log. That is always such a good feeling. I'm going to continue to take down this tree to obtain a few more pieces of wood, and then we are going to explore what exactly we can do with this stuff. I'm not sure if you noticed this, but when we chopped down these trees, they didn't fall over. Gravity didn't seem to have any effect on them at all, really. Even now, the leaves of the trees are just kind of floating there, awkwardly. And that is just one of the many quirks of this game. Gravity is a really weird thing in Minecraft. It definitely exists. You'll find that out the hard way if you walk off the edge of a mountain. But most of the blocks in this game are not affected by it. We can kind of think of the entire world around us as one really large cubic grid. And all of these blocks have a coordinate address within that grid. That is, I guess you could say, temporarily fixed until we, the player, come along and decide to move them. So it might seem a little weird that blocks can just hover in space without any support, But this is just one of those things that gives Minecraft so much of its character, and it's something that we will really begin to appreciate when we get into building. Speaking of gravity, the leaves of these trees that we just cut down are slowly beginning to decay in front of us because we just removed the logs that were supporting them. We'll get into the mechanics of trees another time, but basically, when oak leaves decay, they have a small chance of literally dropping a few different items. They can drop an oak sapling, which we can use to replant the tree if we don't want to deforest the area, and they can also drop sticks, which will open up even more recipes for us. There's also a really small chance, like really small, that they'll drop apples, so I'll also keep an eye out for them as well. Now, if we zoom into our hotbar down here, we can see that we have some oak logs, oak saplings, and a few sticks. These are the items in our inventory that we have quick and easy access to. If we use the scroll wheel on our mouse, we can navigate very effectively through each slot, and whatever is selected will appear in our main hand. To access the rest of our inventory, we'll need to press the E key on our keyboard. And now we can see all 36 slots of our inventory, with the bottom row being our hotbar. We can left click and drag items to move them around, and if we focus our attention up here, we'll discover this 2x2 crafting grid. And below that, a recipe book. Let's open up the book first, because that's going to give us a better idea of what we can craft within this 2x2 interface. At the moment, we only have 3 recipes showing up over here to the left, even though I definitely remember receiving more than that when we picked up those sticks. That's because these recipes here are recipes that can only be crafted from within this 2x2 grid. So if we want to expand our crafting potential to access all of those other recipes, we're going to need an upgrade. We're going to need a crafting table. We can start by crafting our oak logs into oak planks. I can do this by clicking on the item that we want to craft in our recipe book, or by dragging the ingredients directly into the 2x2 grid if I already knew the recipe. From a single oak log, we will get 4 oak planks, which we can craft by clicking and dragging them from the output slot and into our inventory. And as we do so, we'll unlock even more recipes. I'm going to go ahead and bring in a few more oak logs, and I'm going to right click to place one item at a time into the grid. Notice though that the output still only shows 4 planks. That's because the output slot only shows us a preview of what a single recipe can craft. To actually craft it though, we have to click on the output. And in this case, we'll have to do that 3 times to craft each log into additional planks. From here, we can grab our oak planks. We can hold down right click while dragging to quickly place a single item into each slot, and then we can craft our first crafting table. And now, making sure that the crafting table is in our main hand, we can right click anywhere on the ground to place it into the world. So we can begin to understand why it is so important to gather wood. We needed to punch a tree, to obtain oak logs, to craft some planks, which we can then use to make a crafting table. The crafting table is our first utility block that's going to give us access to the rest of the crafting recipes that this game has to offer. That makes this block the key to making any further progress in the game. So if we right click to use the crafting table, we'll get a new 3x3 crafting grid, which is going to allow us to craft a lot more items than we were able to do from our inventory. The user interface here is very similar to the one we had in our inventory, only it doesn't have our player taking up all this space to the left, and it's a lot cleaner with the sole focus being on crafting. We also maintain access to our inventory as well so that we can easily drag items into the table. So let's take a look at the recipes we've currently unlocked. And look at that, we've already got a little over a full page of recipes here. All of this is just from the oak logs, the planks, and the sticks that we picked up. And it's showing us all the recipes we've unlocked, even recipes that we don't have enough materials for, which are highlighted in red. For example, if I click on the ladder, I need 7 sticks to craft this, which I don't have. But if I use this toggle up here, I can actually filter the recipes so that I'm only seeing the ones that I do have the materials for, which will be very useful as we start to unlock more and more recipes in the future. Okay, so let's do some crafting. I'm gonna make a few more sticks to add to the ones I picked up earlier, and then I'm gonna use those sticks to craft our very first set of wooden tools. Let's click on this tools and weapons tab over here so that we're just seeing the tools we've unlocked so far. Perfect. And then I'm gonna take my sticks and I'm gonna place them all in these 2 slots right here. I can do that easily by placing a stack down first and then right clicking to split the stack in half. This is where shape is going to play an important role in the way that we craft items, because from here, if I grab some oak planks and I arrange them in the table like this, I get the recipe for a wooden axe. If I remove this plank, I now have the recipe for a wooden hoe. If I then replace it by moving it over here, now I have a wooden pickaxe. So it's not just the materials that matter, it's also the way that we orient those materials to craft specific recipes. So let's make one of each. We'll make a wooden pickaxe, an axe, a hoe, a shovel, and a sword, which only uses one stick instead of two. These are the lowest tier of tools that we can obtain, and later we'll be able to upgrade these tools to get even more out of them. For now though, we can use these tools to make our lives just a little bit easier. For example, with a wooden axe, we can break wood-related blocks, like oak logs, in half the time that it would take us to break it by hand. This is going to make chopping down some of the local trees around here a much easier task. The only downfall though is that wooden tools overall have a pretty low durability, which means that over a short period of time, they're going to eventually break on us. Durability is just one of those things that we're always going to have to keep an eye on. It's kind of like a health bar, but for our tools and weapons. And as we use them, their health, or durability, depletes. In the case of wooden tools, they begin with a durability of 59, and every time we use them, they will lose 1 point. We can get a pretty good sense of how much durability a tool has by looking at this little bar down here below the tool. If you're not seeing a bar at all, that just means the tool hasn't been used yet. It starts at green, and as we use it, it gradually turns to yellow, orange, and finally red. Right before it breaks. Okay, real quick, if you're playing on Java Edition, I'm gonna give you a life-changing tip here. By default, we cannot see the exact durability of our tools. We just see an approximation. However, if we press F3 and H on our keyboard, this is going to enable advanced tooltips to display in this little tooltip window that appears next to our cursor when we hover over the item. And now we can see exactly how much durability our axe has and how much it started with. I love this feature. It's so useful for keeping track of your tools. So I will be leaving this on for the remainder of this series. If you're on Bedrock, I'm really sorry. We have some other wooden tools we can use as well. We could use our sword to defend ourselves, our hoe if we wanted to jump straight into farming. Our shovel would be really useful if we wanted to break things like dirt, sand, or gravel more efficiently. But of all these tools, it is the wooden pickaxe that we're going to need the most. In order to make any progression beyond this point, we'll need to consider leveling up our tools to the next tier. Don't get me wrong, wooden tools are nice and all, they give us the ability to break specific blocks at twice the normal speed, but there are some blocks in this game that can only be obtained if we have the appropriate tier of pickaxe. Many of the organic and surface level blocks, like wood, leaves, dirt, and gravel, they can all be obtained by hand if we really wanted to, but things like ore, rock, and metal-based blocks, the harder materials in the game, they can only be obtained via the pickaxe. Breaking these blocks by hand would not only take you ages, but would also drop nothing in return, which makes this tool particularly important if we ever want to make any real progression. The wooden pickaxe specifically, though, will give us access to some of the more commonly occurring natural blocks, like stone. Stone is one of those very abundant resources that can be found pretty much anywhere below the surface, usually a few layers or so beneath the grass that we're standing on. So this is a great opportunity to break out my wooden shovel here and dig into one of the nearby hillsides. Obviously, there's a mountain full of exposed stone right over there, but I'd kind of like to start digging out a temporary safe space that we can use later when night falls. Oh, this is perfect. I love this spot. I don't think I could ask for a better location. We have an amazing view from here. So with that, let's start digging. Oh hey, and look at that, we just got the recipe for crafting chests. It's funny we get that recipe as we're picking up our first bit of dirt because we don't even have any recipes unlocked for dirt yet. The only reason we just unlocked it is because we must have just filled our 10th inventory slot. Yep. So basically, recipes in this game are unlocked when very specific criteria are met. Usually this happens when we pick up a new item for the first time. However, in this case, when 10 slots have been occupied anywhere within our inventory, we get chests. That's basically the game's way of saying, hey, your inventory is starting to get full. Maybe you should try crafting a chest. Anyway, that's fun and all, but let's get back to digging. There we go. Now I can switch over to my pickaxe and we can mine our first bit of stone. And with it, we'll receive our first advancement, along with some new recipes. That's exciting. We have now entered the Stone Age. I'm gonna pause the game real quick and open up the advancements menu to get a better sense of what this looks like. Because advancements are a great way to not only keep track of the progress we've made, but also to guide us towards what we should probably do next, if we needed some direction. We're still very early on in the game, so at the moment we're only seeing 4 of them listed here. But as we move forward, this advancements tree is going to slowly begin to grow and expand. So here's the Stone Age advancement that we just received for mining our first stone, And here is the root Minecraft advancement that actually started the tree when we made our first crafting table. It kind of just happened behind the scenes and we weren't notified of it. These other two we have not completed yet, and we can tell because they're currently listed in gray. So if I want to know what our next goal is, I can hover over this next one in line, and it looks like we need to construct a better pickaxe. Well, based on both the icon here and the fact that we just completed the Stone Age advancement, you might be able to guess what our next pickaxe is going to be made of. Anyway, let's get back to mining some stone. And you know what? I should probably stop calling the blocks that we're gathering stone, because technically, what we are mining and what we are picking up in our inventory are two separate things. Stone is one of the few blocks in this game that, when broken, drops a cobbled version of itself. So in this case, we're mining stone out of the wall here with our pickaxe, and then it's dropping a block of cobblestone, which is a more coarse, broken up version of that natural stone. This is actually a very unique feature. Most blocks in this game do not function this way. Usually, what you break is what you get back. But with stone, it's almost like you're physically breaking it apart with your pickaxe, and then picking up the cobbled bits. Okay, so I think I've gathered enough cobblestone. So let's go to our crafting table, and you know what? I just realized I left my crafting table all the way down there. So I'm just gonna craft a new one. There we go. Now, with our new supply of cobblestone, we should see some new recipes appearing in our book. Most notably, a new set of stone tools. Upgrading our tools from wood to stone is a critical moment for us. We are, after all, in the Stone Age now, so it's only fitting that we say goodbye to our wooden tools and make some room for a fresh new set made of stone. I'm gonna make one of each, noting that the crafting recipe is exactly the same as it was before, only this time we're using cobblestone instead of planks. And when I craft a stone pickaxe, wait for it, we'll receive the advancement, getting an upgrade, along with the recipe for torches. Now if we check our advancements, I'm gonna press the L key on my keyboard as a nice little shortcut. The advancements tree has expanded, and we can start to get a little better of an idea of what's to come in the near future. For now though, we are gonna stick with our stone tools, and we're gonna live in the Stone Age for a bit. We actually used up most of our cobblestone making these tools, so I'm gonna use my new pickaxe to mine out a bit more of this hillside. And while we do, let's talk about why you might want to upgrade to stone tools in the first place. Stone tools are a major improvement over their wooden relatives. Compared to our wooden tools, their durability more than doubles, which means they'll last a lot longer, and their block breaking speed is twice as fast, which means we can mine through this stone much more efficiently. But those are mostly just metrics that make using these tools more convenient. The real improvement comes with upgrading our pickaxe here. Remember, there are some blocks in this game that can only be obtained if we have the appropriate tier of pickaxe. Just having a pickaxe on its own is not enough. The wooden pickaxe, specifically, because it's the first pickaxe that we can craft in this game, unlocks access to all of the harder materials that we would generally think of needing a pickaxe to break. Think of things like stone and rock, your terracottas and metals, even things like coal, any of the solid materials you would expect to find in the Earth's crust. However, the stone pickaxe goes one step further and unlocks access to some of our very first ore. Rock containing valuable minerals like iron, copper, and lapis lazuli. And that is why we need a stone pickaxe, because one of those minerals, in particular, will be used pretty extensively for a lot of important recipes in the near future. And we can only get our hands on it with this tool right here. At this point, it is already midday, and we have a bit of a problem. Our hunger level is starting to deplete, and if we don't find some food before nightfall, I might be in some trouble. You see, in Minecraft, there is a daylight cycle that runs about 20 minutes in real time between day and night. That means we have limited daylight to work with before the sun goes down, and being out at night is a bad idea. So from this point forward, we need to be very mindful of our time. So here's what we need to do. First, I need food so that I don't starve to death. Remember, I'm playing on hard mode, so if my hunger depletes, so does my health. Second, I need wool to make a bed. And to get that, I need to find some sheep. So let's get moving. The easiest way to find food on our first day is to hunt down some of the local livestock, which is a great opportunity for us to use our new stone sword. And we have some options. Cows will drop raw beef, and if we're lucky, a bit of leather. Some of the local pigs will drop raw pork chop. Sheep will give us raw mutton, plus they'll drop some wool, so I'll be keeping a close eye out for them. And chickens can provide us with some raw chicken, and will usually drop their feathers as well. Both cod and salmon are also pretty good sources of food if we happen to be near a body of water. Rabbits are available in some areas, but they're a little less reliable. And sweet berries in particular are a great early source of food if you're lucky enough to be near a spruce forest. And apples are also potentially available, but there's really only like a 1 in 200 chance of them dropping from an oak leaf, so that's not exactly something we can rely on. To be clear, there are a lot of other foods in this game, but these are just some of the easiest to get early on. Other options are going to require a lot more of our time, and that's not something we have right now. So, let's get hunting. Hello there, friend. I really hate to do this, but I'm hungry and it's getting late. With a stone sword, it will take me 2 hits to kill this cow. And it will immediately start running once it realizes it's in danger, so we'll have to be quick. There we go. And it will drop at least 1 piece of raw beef, and possibly a bit of leather. Perfect. We'll even get some new recipes, and our first bit of XP. We're moving up in the world. The same applies to pigs, only this time we'll get raw pork chop, and sheep, which will give us raw mutton, and exactly 1 piece of wool. Just what I was looking for. I'll need 3 pieces of wool total to make a bed, and ideally I'd like a bit more food to take back as well. So to speed this process up a bit, I can switch over to my stone axe, which actually does more damage than a sword, and take out each of these animals in a single hit instead of 2, but only if I'm able to land a critical hit. I can do this by pressing the spacebar to jump, and timing it just right to land the hit on the way down from the jump. As long as my character is moving downward when I strike, it should count as a critical hit. So with that in mind, I'm going to use the rest of my time to gather some more food and wool, and then I will head back to our little hobbit hole before night falls. As the sun begins to set, the world around us is slowly going to transform into a very dangerous place, which is my cue to hightail it back to our hillside shelter. At this point, it would probably be wise to have some kind of shelter in place, a safe space where you can lay low for a bit and wait out the night. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We could make a very simple shelter out of dirt, wood, or maybe cobblestone, whatever materials we have most of. We could attempt to set up some kind of perimeter, or maybe we could find a small cave to take shelter in, hoping that something else doesn't already live there. We could try to build something up in the air, or maybe even in a tree. Anywhere really that we can create some distance between us and the ground. But my personal favorite is to just dig right into the earth, whether that's into the side of a hill or cliffside, or directly into the ground beneath our feet. This way, we can conserve our resources and stock up on a bit of dirt and cobblestone in the process. It's also something you can do very quickly if you're crunched on time. And fortunately for me, that is exactly what I did. Perfect. I'm gonna place down my crafting table, quickly make an oak door to protect ourselves from the dangers of the outside world, and hope that we don't receive any unwelcome visitors. During the night, the world around us will become cloaked in darkness. And within that darkness, terrible creatures will infest the overworld for as far as the eye can see. Undead zombies will lumber aimlessly across the land, and skeletons will wait patiently in the darkness for their chance to snipe you from afar. Creepers will sneak through the tall grass without making a sound, biding their time for the right moment to detonate the explosives that they carry within. And spiders will creep and crawl about, searching for an unfortunate victim to make prey. And Endermen, well, these eldritch horrors will inspire fear that will paralyze you right where you stand if you so much as look at them. But don't worry, within these walls, we should be protected from the monsters that lurk about outside. Alright, it is starting to get really dark in here, and I still need to eat. We could eat some of the raw food we've gathered, and it will restore a little bit of our hunger, but to get the most out of our food, we need to cook it. So with all of the cobblestone we've gathered from digging out the shelter, I'm going to craft our very first furnace. And I'm going to place it down right over here. The furnace here is a utility block, in much the same way that our crafting table is. Only instead of crafting items, it will be used to smelt them. Smelting in Minecraft is the process of creating refined goods from raw materials by heating them in a furnace. To do this, we need some kind of fuel, which we would place in the lower slot here, and then the item that we want to smelt, which goes in the upper slot. By the way, smelting in real life has to do specifically with the extraction of metal from its ore, but in Minecraft it's also used to cook raw food. So I'm going to place a few of our raw beef into the furnace, but what are we going to do about fuel? The best source of fuel, if we were lucky enough to have stumbled upon any on our first day, would be coal. It's actually pretty common. I just didn't happen to see any when we were out. And unless it's exposed to the surface, it's a resource we'd usually have to go caving for. Fortunately for us though, we can use wood as a fuel. Any wood. Logs, planks, sticks, doors, even our wooden tools if we wanted. So here's how it works. Every fuel source in the game has its own smelting rate, meaning that some fuels are going to be more efficient than others. Logs and planks, for example, will each smelt 1.5 items per fuel. Sticks will only smelt half an item per fuel. And our wooden tools and doors would each only smelt 1 item per fuel. So for me, it would come down to either using a couple of logs or planks. And considering that they both smelt 1.5 items per fuel, and we can craft 4 planks from each log, the most logical fuel source would be to use planks. So let's do that. 2 planks should cook exactly 3 pieces of raw beef. And as soon as we put it in the furnace, it will immediately kick on and begin to smelt our food. The flames here will show us how much of our fuel's burn time remains as each fuel item is consumed. And the arrow will give us a sort of progress report on the status of the current item being smelted. And when it's done smelting, it will move over to the output slot, and the next item will immediately begin. And check this out, the furnace also gives us quite a bit of light. So despite it being dark out, we can actually see pretty well in here. That is, until the furnace runs out of fuel. I think we need a better source of light. Okay, so I'm gonna grab our cooked food, which is now steak, getting a bit of XP in the process, which is really nice. And then, you've probably noticed that there's a recipe book for the furnace, just like there is for the crafting table. I'm gonna click on that, and when I do, we're not gonna see a whole lot just yet, but there is one recipe that should stand out. The recipe for charcoal. It turns out, even if we don't have the opportunity to grab a hold of some coal early on, we do have the ability to make a pretty useful alternative from a resource that's pretty accessible as well. So let's do that. Let's place 6 oak logs in the furnace along with 4 oak planks for the fuel and make ourselves 6 pieces of charcoal. Charcoal is a much better fuel source than planks. Instead of smelting only 1.5 items per fuel, it can smelt a total of 8. It's pretty good. The only downfall is that we have to wait for it to smelt, and we have to use a bit of wood and fuel to make it. But trust me, it's worth it. While we wait, and I have some light, I'm gonna finally eat some of this steak that we just cooked, and that should refill our hunger bar. Wow, I was hungry. Hopefully that'll hold us over for a while. Okay, the furnace still has a little bit of time left, but I'm gonna go ahead and take out some of this charcoal. The light from our furnace is nice, but it is temporary. So let's use this charcoal to craft some torches, and then we can use those torches to light up our shelter. Very nice. Torches are an essential item that we will be using quite often to light up dark places. So if you have the resources, you really can't go wrong with crafting as many as you can. Alright, I'm gonna get some more food cooking. I'm gonna put in 8 pieces of raw food to get the most out of my charcoal, and while that's going, I'd say it's about time we craft our first bed. After all, that is why we gathered all this wool to begin with, right? So let's do that. I can use 3 pieces of wool and a bit of wood, and with that, I can craft a single bed. And I think I'll place it down right over here. Aside from food and shelter, beds are probably one of the ultimate goals for our first day. Because with a bed, we have the ability to sleep through the night. That's right, we don't have to sit here and wait for the entire night to pass. We can just fast forward through all of it by sleeping in a bed. And we'll even get the Sweet Dreams advancement, letting us know we've passed an important milestone. And then we will wake up in the morning, ready to begin a fresh new day. But that's not the only value that a bed provides. It also resets our spawn point, the place that we will rejoin this world in the off chance that we ever meet our untimely demise. Otherwise, if we ever meet face to face with death, we will be brought back at the world spawn, the place that we first entered this world. So the bed here gives us the control over where we want that location to be, which I'd say is pretty important. Now, I personally would still put having a shelter at the very top of my list of priorities, for a couple of reasons. First, there's the very real possibility that you'll just get unlucky and you won't be able to find enough wool before nightfall. If that happens, you will need a shelter to make it through the night, and you'll just have to keep yourself busy until morning. This would be a great opportunity to do some cooking, crafting, decorating, or maybe even gathering some more cobblestone. But even in the case where we do have a bed, you might be wondering, why not just sleep right through the night as soon as the sun sets? No shelter needed. That's true, we could do that. However, we would then be setting our spawn in a location that may not be ideal or safe. And there's always the chance that something could walk up on us while we're sleeping. On top of that, if we were to break our bed to bring it along with us, we would actually end up breaking our new spawn point as well, returning it back to the world spawn. So ideally, it would be nice if we could find a more reliable place to put our bed down permanently. A place like a shelter, Wouldn't that be nice? Now, I will say, when morning comes, we will still need to keep our guard up, because there is a chance that some monsters will still be lurking about. Most of the undead monsters should burn up in the sunlight, and the arachnids will actually become peaceful when they're exposed to the sun. But creepers specifically, as their name implies, will sneak about, waiting for you to let your guard down so that they can set off their explosives when you least expect it. And we don't want that. Okay, I think we're in the clear. The last thing I want to do to really wrap up our first day is craft a chest. Our inventory is really starting to fill up, and we need a safe space, like our shelter here, where we can store and organize our belongings. They're pretty easy to make. All we need is a good supply of wood, and then we can make as many as we need. I'll just make a couple for now. And then we can place them down anywhere in our shelter to use them. Chests are an absolute essential item to have in a Minecraft world. They give us the ability to clean up our inventory, safely store our items, and they make it possible to explore our world without constantly feeling over-encumbered. And we get quite a bit of space here to do so. With a single chest, we get almost an entire inventory's worth of space to store our items. That's 27 slots. We can even double this by placing a second chest directly adjacent to it, merging them together to create a large chest. And now we have a total of 54 slots. So let's organize our things. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but it'll be really helpful if we can store our items in a way that'll help us easily find them later. I personally like to form categories based on the items that I currently have, and then assign those categories to either a row or a column within my chest. So for example, I'm gonna put all of my wood-related items in the first column. I'll keep some in my inventory because I know I'll need it. And then I'll put what are, right now, some of the random blocks that I don't quite yet know what to do with in the column right next to it. Of course, this is all temporary, I just don't have a good category for them at the moment. I think I'll put all of my food together in its own column, and the leather here can just go right next to it for now. And then since I'm using stone tools now, I can put all of my wooden tools away as well. And I'm not quite ready to get into farming at the moment, so I'll also put away my hoe. Perfect. Now I have a lot more free space available. I can do the same thing with my inventory. I'll just keep everything that I'm not actively using in the top row here, and then the items that I know I'll probably need access to, I'll keep in my hotbar. For me, that usually includes all of my relevant tools and weapons, torches to light up the area, food so we can always eat, maybe some building blocks, and then whatever else we would need depending on what it is we're doing. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. The world around us is starting to look bright. We have a nice set of stone tools, plenty of food and utilities, a bed and a shelter to sleep in, and a clean inventory to begin the next phase of our adventure. We've even made some pretty good headway on our first handful of advancements, including unlocking a few new advancement trees. We unlocked the adventure tree here for killing our first mob, and then we later received the sweet dreams advancement for sleeping in a bed, and then we also unlocked the husbandry tree when we ate our first piece of food. So now we have a really good idea for some of the things we might want to accomplish in the near future. But for the moment, I think that just about wraps up our first day in Minecraft. We've made some pretty good progress today, and I am feeling ready to get out there and begin exploring our world. In the next episode, we will explore the surrounding area, do a bit of hunting and gathering, and take a deeper look at the forests of Minecraft. I hope you all are ready.